Many of you may not have known this, but when it comes to trading, 90% of it is psychological, 10% has to do with technicals, and I'm going to take it a step further today. What better book is there out there to learn about psychology and improving that than the basic instructions before leaving Earth? Yes, I'm talking about the Bible. You may not have known this, but there are plenty of hidden gems in there in terms of verses that can actually directly positively impact the way that you are trading today and make you a more profitable trader. Well, make sure you stick around to find out, because I'm going to be going over a hidden verse that I found today that you should be applying to your trading starting tomorrow. Now, welcome to another session of Trading Bible Study with Chike Investing. Thank you for sticking around. If you like what you heard so far, please don't forget to press that like button. It doesn't hurt, okay? And also, don't forget to subscribe and press the notification bell. You can also leave a comment below about one thing that you're grateful for this week. There's also a free Discord below. If you want to join that, ask me any questions, and I'll also be going over the trades I'll be taking on a daily basis, okay? Now, let's start off with the verse of the day. Romans 12, verse 2. Do not conform to the patterns of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Then you will be able to test and approve what God's will is, his good, pleasing, and perfect will. That is the New International Version, by the way. And I want to break down this entire verse for you, because you may be wondering, what does this verse have to do with my trading? Well, one, let's start off with the first part. It says, do not conform to the pattern of this world. I find it funny how it says patterns, because a lot of technical trading, right, has to do with patterns. Now let's tie this back to trading. Do not conform. What does conform really mean? So if you look on Google, conform definition is behave according to socially acceptable conventions or standards, right? In other words, there are things that, and actually let's take it a step back. 90% of traders don't make it. Okay. Why is that? Right? That is what we call like a social norm, right? This whole idea of conformitude, right, is when you're conforming to a social norm, right? So 90% of those people are just like the other part, right? There's a lot of people who are doing similar things, and you are called, right, to not be like that 90%. You need to be like the 10%, right? So what are the things that you should not conform to, right? What are the things that you should change your behaviors for? So one thing I've always thought about when it comes to not conforming, it's really about, one part is really about these bad behaviors, okay? So for example, bad habits like closing your trades too early when there's a level that you've logically arrived at that you wanted to see price head towards, or setting your stop loss too tight. And before you allow price to actually get where it's going, it stops you out, because you want to maximize your R to R, or your risk to reward, but you're not really there yet because you haven't developed that level of precision yet, okay? Or let's say, for example, you're over trading because you took a loss and you just want to keep going and make that money back, but it's not the prime conditions for it, right? You're taking 4, 5, 7, 6, 7 trades a day when you really should be taking only 2 to 3, right? Or 1 to 2, especially as a beginner. A lot of those bad habits is one of the reasons why the 90% of these traders fail. And so you need to figure out how to not conform to those. Another way to think about this, right, is retail strategies. I mean, that was it for me. A lot of these retail concepts that don't necessarily work, you know, wedges, channels, double bottoms, triple tops, a lot of those shapes and patterns are things that 90% of traders are looking at and they're conforming to, because that's what's socially acceptable. That's what people are, you know, that's the first thing you see on baby pits when you're learning about how to trade, or you see it on most YouTube channels. However, 90% of people don't know how to trade. So if 90% of people are trading in a certain way, it's probably not going to be profitable. Now, I'm not saying that retail strategies don't work, but a lot of times retail strategies can be used for liquidity, for smart money concepts, right? So you can see how there's like even a tie between learning smart money concepts and biblical references, because God, the way he works is a lot of things coincide with each other. There's a lot of confluence in the way that this world works and the way that God works. And so God's path, a lot of times, is not what people are following. And so I'm not saying smart money concepts are like the God's way of trading, but I think that there's some fruit to take away from there, that maybe you should explore a pattern, a trading strategy that works for you, and you see it for yourself, and not necessarily just because somebody on Baby Pips or some YouTuber with 100K followers told you to. You need to do your own back testing, and you need to make sure that you're seeing that actually works. You know, when I looked at retail strategies, a lot of times retail strategies were used as liquidity sweeps, right? You see a double bottom, and then all of a sudden that double bottom gets wicked out, and it's used as liquidity because it has relatively equal lows, right? And so that's just one thing to look about at the first part of this video. Now, if you go to the other parts of the verse, it also says, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Now, what does it mean to be transformed by the renewing of your mind, right? So a lot of times, like when we think about renewing, it can also be like renovation. When you're renovating a house, you often have to tear down the old pieces, right? Like tear down the walls, right? You may have to replace the flooring and then put in something new. You need to add new paint, add new flooring, add a new roof. So a lot of times you learn these bad habits, or you learn strategies that don't necessarily work, and just because somebody told you and you haven't even back tested it, you need to remove those things from your mind, right? Cleanse yourself of those particular ways that you were involved in, and then be renewed by doing your own research on strategies that may actually work, back testing for yourself, and developing your own particular expertise in this area that will inform the strength behind your analysis and your confidence when you're executing on trades, knowing that this is something that you've done your own research on and it actually works. As a trader, you also need to work on your habits, right? So a lot of these old habits, right, just over trading and taking too many trades a day, or not, following a proper, strategy. Like you have one model that you've studied and then you need to focus on that one model, but some people are trying all these different kinds of models. Those are bad habits that you need to remove from your mind and instead implement good habits over time that will lead to success, right? And so that's like being disciplined and only taking trades that actually follow your model, right? And only taking 1 to 2 trades a day. If you take a loss, right, you may take one more, maybe at half a risk, to try and get that money back. If you've taken 2 losses, close your charts. There's always tomorrow, right? If you take a win, maybe you're good with that win, especially if you're not experienced, right? Just close your charts. You don't need to trade anymore. The chances of you having 2 profitable trades a day is significantly less likely than having 1 profitable trade a day, right? It's more likely that you take a loss next time, because let's say you have a 50% win to loss ratio, right? If you take 2 trades in a day, one of them may be a win, one may be a loss. So if you've gotten your win for the day, maybe close your chart and come back the next day. So the renewing and the transforming your mind, you need to enable good habits to come in and replace the old ones. And that's how you can renew your mind. And then you'll be able to test and approve what God's will is, his good, pleasing, and perfect will. Then you will be able to reap the benefits of all the hard work and the transformation that you've experienced in your mind, such as finding a model that actually works and obtaining consistent profit over time. I know maybe some of this sounds like a bit of a stretch, but I always like to look at the Bible holistically and comprehensively and see how can I implement some of what I'm reading in my daily studies in the Bible with what you're going on with trading. And I hope that today you were able to take at least one thing away from this. And if you liked what you heard, press that like button. Don't forget to do that. Leave a comment below, any questions or any comments. And maybe if you disagree, go ahead. I'm not shy of that. Go ahead and say what you want to say. Press that subscribe button, press that notification bell, and join the free Discord as I said below. I'll catch you guys in the next video.